Okay, I think let's get started. We've got a fair amount of people in. So hi everyone, and welcome to this month's webinar. And if you've joined us before, it's really great to have you back. And if this is your first time, you're really in for a treat. I hope you've got your tea or coffee ready, because we've got quite an exciting session lined up today. And just a quick heads up, this webinar is being recorded, as you can see. So if you need to step away, or if you want to revisit any part later, you'll have it you'll have access to it on demand. Now, let's talk about the topic for today. Let's talk about data, because as they say, data is the new oil. Just like crude oil, raw data is inherently invaluable. It needs to be refined, processed, and structured to fuel decision-making and innovation. And that's exactly what today's session on Microsoft Fabric is all about, and why it's so important. We're diving into how this end-to-end data analytics platform is reshaping the way organizations collect, manage, and analyze data, turning raw information into actionable insights for your businesses. So whether you're looking to streamline your operations or use AI-driven analytics, or simply make better sense of your data landscape, this session is for you. So before we dive in, we're going to start with a quick poll to get a sense of your Microsoft Fabric exposure. We'll move on to the next slide. And it's not a poll about Fabric softener and which ones you prefer. So take a moment. It should be on your screens now, and respond. And we'd love to tailor the conversations to your needs. And of course, feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A or the chat box throughout the session. We'll tackle them before we wrap up. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Dewald and Bruce, who's going to take you through our webinar for today. Dewald, over to you.
Right. Welcome, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy day, especially during your lunch hour, to join our Wednesday webinar on Microsoft Fabric. Today, we'll have two presenters, both engineers from the Mandata team. Dewald, that's me on the left-hand side of your screen. I'll be guiding you through the slide deck, covering some theoretical concepts. And then Bruce on the right, he will be handling the fun part, a live Microsoft demo on some of the theoretical concepts that I spoke about in the slide deck. So let's dive right into it. Firstly, let's look at our agenda for today. We'll be looking at simplify and unify. Simplify, unify is basically say goodbye to the disconnected processes and technology with a single analytics platform, scalable and cost-effective, how to future-proof your business with a platform that grows with you. We'll give some practical examples of how we actually implement it. Data maturity, gain a good understanding and an effective implementation of the Medallion Architecture that is used within Microsoft Fabric. And then enhance collaboration, improve teamwork with the connected, secure, unified environment. Some of the slides might contain a little bit more info, and you might not have the time to read through all of it, but I'll try to cover all the important bits and pieces, and we are happy to share the slide deck with you if needed, but also, as Suggestion mentioned, the webinar is recorded. All right, so let's look at unify and simplify. So the whole vision behind Microsoft Fabric is to eliminate disconnected processes and introduce a unified analytics platform, which basically looks like this. For the first, I think, 1 or 2 slides, I just want to focus on the Unify keyword. Most of the Azure data tools are now available within a unified analytical solutions, which obviously we now call Microsoft Fabric. So looking at the slide, Microsoft Fabric focuses on 8 experiences. I'm just going to go have a brief 1 sentence about each one of those experiences, which Microsoft Fabric focuses on. It's OneLake there on the left. OneLake is a unified cloud-based data lake that provides a single storage layer for all the Fabric workloads, meaning all the data that's consumed within Fabric will reside in one lake. Then we have Data Factory, which is a data integration service that enables data movement, data transformation, orchestrations across various sources and destinations, whether it's inside Fabric or outside Fabric. Data engineering bit that provides a Spark-based environment, especially for big data, more complex data processing, transformations, etc. Data warehousing, which I believe we're all familiar with, star schemas, facts, dimensions. That is all SQL-based and reporting on structured data. We've got the data science experience that enables the data scientists to build, train, and deploy machine learning models. Real-time analytics, I believe that speaks for itself. Power BI, which I presume most of us are also familiar with, is a business visualization tool that enables users to visualize, analyze, and share data through interactive reports and dashboards. And then probably the not so familiar one is Data Activator. A Data Activator is a no-code, event-driven tool that automatically monitors data changes and triggers actions based on the rules that you define with an activator. Those notifications can then be delivered through email, Teams, or whatever, or some other message systems as well. Right. So if we look at the slide, illustrates that all 8 of the Microsoft experiences share the same compute capacity and the same data storage, ensuring a unified data environment, which we spoke about. Not the siloed one we used to. Everything is unified. All the compute engines, as I mentioned, store all their data automatically in one lake, which is right there at the bottom. The data is also stored in a single format. That format is Delta Parquet format. Once the data is stored in the data lake, it's directly accessible by all the engines without any import or any export. So the whole idea of the one lake is to get whatever data you need to do reporting on, analysis on, is to get that data into one lake, and everything is in that unified environment. And then going back to the Delta Parquet format files is all the compute engines, Spark, T-SQL, GoQL, analysis services, all of them are all fully optimized to work with the Data Parquet files within the native format. And obviously this is all across a shared security model across all those engines. So this is Unify and Simplify. So the next bit I'm just going to look at the Simplify. By looking at Simplify, I'm just going to focus on data pipelines and a bit of for data ingestion and a bit of shortcuts and database mirroring. So firstly, a data pipeline. A data pipeline is a series of data processing steps that automate the movement, transformation, and orchestration of data across various systems and services. So data pipeline is a very low-code interface for ingesting data into your one lake and also process your data further within Fabric. By just looking at the ingestion bit, Microsoft Fabric's Data Factory currently offers over 145 connectors, native connectors, which enables integration with a wide variety of data sources and destinations. Fabric keeps on, like we've seen in our journey with Fabric, it keeps on adding new connectors on a regular basis. But then just going back to the data pipelines, it's important to note that data pipelines is specifically for low code, where if you're looking at more advanced data transformations, you're looking at notebooks, but primarily for data ingestion into your one lake, we use data pipelines due to the simplicity and the speed. So looking further on data pipelines, we're looking at data templates to quickly get you started. Now, I'm a data engineer. I don't really like templates, but we use Microsoft Fabric templates a lot because it makes your life really easier. There's a lot of available templates. You can see them on the slide. On the left-hand side, bulk copies from databases, from files into a database, from Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 into Lakehouse, and so forth. I'm not going to go through the whole list. But the whole idea about these templates is there's a couple of advantages to using these templates. It's fairly straightforward, actually. It's consistency and standardization. These templates allow you to define a consistent structure for all your data pipelines across all your various projects. It's time saving. By using these templates, you can jumpstart the development of your pipelines quickly, ingesting the data without having to start from scratch. You also have the ability, the ease of customization. If the standard pipeline template does not work for you, it's very easy to simply customize it for your organizational or your development needs. Improved collaboration. Teams can leverage off the same set of templates, and obviously with that comes a whole lot of benefits associated with those, sharing those specific set of templates. And then, just plain and simple, faster development and faster deployment. I think this is the last one, is we're looking at shortcuts. Besides data pipelines, Fabric also uses 3 other methods for data ingesting into the one lake, which is shortcut. Shortcut is actually doing shortcuts within Fabric. So shortcuts is, as it said on the slide, shortcuts unifies the data without copying or moving data. So I can easily, from my one lakehouse, set up a shortcut to another lakehouse, and data will not be copied across. So it's easy to move data around with shortcuts within Microsoft Fabric itself. Then we're looking at mirroring and open mirroring. So shortcuts is generally used for files. If we look at mirroring is a data replication technique where Fabric creates an extract copy of your source data and ensuring real-time synchronization and high availability. And then the last one is the open mirroring, which is an extension of the traditional mirroring, where you develop delta extracts from Microsoft Fabric to maintain synchronizing your data between your mirror data and your source system. And this is particularly used for big data scenarios. And then right at the end, we've got Power BI, which is the bridge between your data and your decision. Power BI is now seamlessly integrating within Microsoft Fabric, which Bruce will show a demo in the actual demo a little bit later on today, or in this hour. All right, so the next point on the agenda is scalable and cost effective, which basically all sums it up with feature-proof your business with a platform that grows with you. So some of the practical strategies that we as a team use ourselves is normally what we suggest is, you start with a small Fabric capacity, and then you scale the capacity in line with your increasing adoption. It's very easy to upgrade from, let's say, an F2 capacity to an F4 capacity using Microsoft within Fabric. I think it happens within 12 hours or something like to that effect. Important is repeatable patterns, templates based on Microsoft well-architectured framework pillars. Then work within a defined Fabric architectural framework. What I mean by that is Microsoft Fabric provides a structured approach for data architecture, the Medallion Architecture, which I'll speak about a little bit later. We'll do a more deep dive into the Medallion Architecture. And also best practices for security and governance. Then the bullet point under there, trust the building blocks and don't overthink. The building blocks, use Fabric provides pre-built components like data flows, pipelines, which we spoke about, lakehouses, instead of trying to custom code everything. And don't overthink it. Stick to Fabric's recommended design patterns rather than creating complex, unnecessary custom solutions. It's basically focus on business outcome instead of getting caught up in overlying complex technical implementations. Then point number 4, use DevOps to build out your requirements backlog, which will then help to achieve your roadmap. Rapid design, quick review, build it as simply as possible. MVP, so MVP stands for your minimal viable product. And then embrace refactoring and incremental improvements, which we know as the Agile approach, which I believe most companies follow the Agile approach or the Agile methodology and the benefits of it. Right, data maturity. So let's have a look into that. So Suggestion mentioned data is the new oil. I refer to it sometimes as data is the new currency, which is why data maturity is so important. So the next couple of slides, I'm just going to take you through the Medallion architecture within the Fabric environment. So first of all, it's a structured data flow. The data Medallion architecture organizes data into three distinct layers. On the left is your bronze, which is raw, silver, validated, gold, and the enriched data. So the bronze layer is sort of where the raw, unprocessed data is stored. Data is ingested in the raw format with minimal transformation, and it sort of acts as a staging area for further processing in the Medallion architecture. Normally, we tend to say data in the bronze lake is a one-to-one with your source system. Then moving along onto the silver layer. So in the silver layer, data is cleaned, transformed, and structured for analysis. The layer redefines the raw data from the bronze layer, correcting errors, cleaning up some data, maybe connecting to other data sources as well. So the data get enriched a little bit. And then lastly is obviously the most important layer is your gold layer. And this layer holds high quality business level data that is ready for final analysis, reporting, and decision making. So to look at the Medallion architecture, in summary, the Medallion architecture in Microsoft Fabric provides a scalable framework for organizing and transforming your data across the multiple stages from raw ingestion to gold. So going on the slide, going from your source data on the left, following a process, improving your data quality all the way into the gold layer for data use. So just to take a step back, if we look at the traditional development pattern for transitioning data from source to reporting normally followed a bottom-up approach, developing horizontally first and then moving upwards. Microsoft Fabric introduced the MVP, which I briefly mentioned earlier on, the minimal viable product strategy. What we like to call it is quicker time to value. So basically, instead of building horizontally first, Fabric now, or the MVP, focuses on delivering quick, mature data by building upwards. Each MVP acts as a building block which will now overlap into the next one. So this is the new way we're doing it in Fabric. Using the MVP process, we use the building blocks now to deliver the full business requirements in a phased approach. For example, as you could see in the first slide, there were 4 business requirements. However, over here, we're only focusing on the first business requirements, and we deliver that value very quickly. Then moving along, we're getting in the second requirement, and then the third requirements, and so forth, to achieve the initial full business requirements within a phased approach, adding business value for each phase, looking at your return of investment. Then just looking what the Medallion architecture task flow would look like within Microsoft Fabric, the product itself, and Bruce will demo this as well. We've got a task flow in Fabric to help assist with following the Medallion architecture methodology. So the task flow is a template. It's a sequence of steps or activity that guides data through the various stages of processing, transformation, and analysis. It represents basically how the task is orchestrated within Fabric to help with the desired outcome. So I'm not going to go too much detail on this. On the left-hand side, you have your data ingestion. Your data ingestion goes into your bronze layer, which we spoke about, which is your raw data. Then you have your initial process, which is a little bit of data cleansing, transformation, which then gets stored in your silver layer. Then moving along from your silver layer, you have further transformation, which is data aggregation, data enrichment, that then goes ultimately into your golden layer, which is then business ready. Your data is cleaned, enriched, and can be served to the correct audience. All right. If we look at the Medallion architecture, we like to speak about the Medallion's 3x3 decision making. By saying Medallion 3, I'm talking about bronze, silver, and gold. The other 3 is the compute that we spoke about. Sorry, not the compute, the Fabric decision making. What will be used for those 3 decision making areas? The first one being storage, what will be used in the bronze, silver, and gold layer. Will it be a lakehouse, a data warehouse, or an event house? When we're looking at compute, by moving the data between those specific layers, or we're looking at pipelines, Spark notebooks, data flows, or KQL, which is real-time data. And then effectively, the last one, the third one, is how the results will be served. Export to other locations, data storage queries, direct data storage queries, or using Power BI to visually display this data for interactiveness and making the correct business decisions. And then I think this is the last of my slides on the agenda before I hand over to Bruce, is enhanced collaboration. Enhanced collaboration strengthens teamwork with a connected and secure data environment. And how do we achieve this within Microsoft Fabric? Firstly, we look at a unified platform for collaboration. We've seen that, I think it was in the first slide about Microsoft Fabric, the 8 experiences. It's a single integrated environment combining data engineering, data warehouse, data science, data activator, all those experiences which I showed you. Also for unified platform workspaces, which Bruce will show a little bit later, can be shared out to make use of a workspace, can be shared amongst peers, making use of notebooks, building Git integration so that not everything is stored within Fabric. It enables version control, collaborations through GitHub, Azure DevOps for your agile and your ritual planning, your grooming, and it supports branching strategies to avoid conflicts in code and data sets when a team develops together. Then real-time collaboration. Multiple users can edit notebooks, pipelines, and reports simultaneously. And the last slide on this is Power BI integration for business insights. Bruce will show you a bit later how Power BI is integrated into Microsoft Fabric. So I'm not going to delve right into that. We've spoken about one lake, unified data access, a single storage layer across the organization. There's no more need for multiple copies, as we've seen with using shortcuts, for example. And in Fabric notebooks, which are shared notebooks to collaborate on data analysis and machine learning models, which is more focused on your data scientists. Right. So for now, that concludes the theory. And I'll now hand over to Bruce, who will showcase how some of these concepts will come to life using Microsoft Fabric. So Bruce, I'm going to stop share and I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you. So this is a live demo, which is really a great time to see what's not going to work. So I'll try to get everything to work and step through all the things that we need to discuss. Firstly, to get into Power BI, you go to the website. It's app.powerbi.com or app.fabric.microsoft.com, and it'll bring you to a home screen that looks a little bit like this, hopefully. And then you've got the choice from there as to which experience you'd like to use. So if you click at the bottom left corner, you can look at the Power BI experience, which changes the layout of your screen a little bit. I'm going to use the Fabric experience for now. And that basically is as simple as that. From there, you've got your workloads. The workloads consists of your data engineering, data factory, data science, data warehouse, etc. And what you can do from there is it gives you a nice interface to click on one of them, and it tells you all about what the data engineering includes. If you choose, say, for instance, a lakehouse, it takes you to the Microsoft Learn website, which will tell you all about a lakehouse, and you can learn more about it. Back to the workspace or to the home. So the first thing you would need to do if you wanted to use any Fabric artifacts, you need to create a workspace, because all the Fabric artifacts live inside a workspace, very similar to how Power BI's workspaces worked. And if you have Power BI, you probably have a Fabric. If you have a Power BI license or capacity, you can create most of the Fabric artifacts as well. So if I go into workspaces, it's as simple as creating a new workspace. I'm going to call this one Webinar Live, for lack of a better name at the moment. And then you would choose which license you'd like to put it under, where if you've got a Power BI capacity or Fabric capacity, you could choose those. For mine, I'm using the Power BI trial capacity. Click apply, and it will create that workspace now for me ready to use. Normally what you would have at this point, if you have an F64 or greater, you'd have Copilot functionality, which would give you a Copilot icon at the top here, which would give you a benefit of using it to browse the interface and reduce development time. So the next thing I'm going to have a go at is to create one of those task flows. The task flow that Dewald showed earlier was the Medallion Architecture one. So from there, I can simply select a predefined task flow. I'm going to choose the Medallion Architecture and select. This creates a workspace that contains the Medallion Architecture ready to be processed. Now, if I wanted to create artifacts, I've got a choice. I can either use the new item at the top here, or if I want to assign it to one of these workflows, I can simply go create a new item. And I'm going to create a lake house. I'm going to call it bronze for now. And that will create my lake house with its SQL endpoint, as well as a default semantic model ready to be used. I'm just going to go out of that because I mean, you can see all the tables and files that are associated in this. The lakehouse holds unstructured files as well as structured tables and data, which is all stored in the one lake underneath. So I'm just going to go back to that workspace. You'll see that it's now tagged those items. If I create another item, for instance, a pipeline, I can tag it with a low volume. I can create a new data copy pipeline and choose data pipeline. And if I just call it pipeline 1 for now, for lack of a better name, it will create that pipeline for me, which will take a couple of seconds. Taking a bit longer than I had hoped. So I'm going to jump to one that I've previously created to speed things up a little bit. So the pipeline looks like this with the copy task. I have a source and target on it. I've chosen a source table and a destination. I've defined the target as the lakehouse. The source is a Azure SQL database in this case. And if I go back into a lakehouse that I've previously created, you can see that the data will appear in the table section of that table, which is this one here, which I copied earlier. And hopefully that will come up a little bit quicker. It's not, but we'll jump around a little bit more. So I'm going to go back into that workspace that I've just created. A second option for ingesting data we might be able to use to do data mirroring, which Dewald also discussed earlier. If I wanted to create a mirrored database, I can. It's as simple as going new items. I'm going to mirror an Azure SQL database. I have a previously created connection to that Azure database that has my login credentials all already saved in it to speed things up just a little bit. And if I click on that Azure connection, it will create a mirror, and it'll mirror the data. I can choose the tables that I want mirrored, and it will just mirror them. It creates all the change logging and capturing and sends it across to the mirrored lake database. Again, to speed things up a little bit, I've previously created one, and I've put it in the webinar. So here you'll see the mirrored database is already mirroring that Azure SQL, and it tells me it's running and how many rows are already in it. So that just keeps them in sync. What I can then do is I can, for instance, go into a bronze lakehouse or another lakehouse. I can also shortcut that data. So now once it's in the mirrored, I can shortcut it into a lakehouse if I want to be able to view it and query it. That's as simple as going tables, new table shortcut, and then I can choose the lakehouse, and it'll give me the mirror database, I can now click on the mirror database, click next, and choose the tables I want to shortcut. If I pick one and shortcut it in, it will create a shortcut where I can now go and view the data in my lakehouse. So there's the shortcut created, and it'll now allow me to browse that data from the mirrored database without actually importing any of the data. The only data it will import is for caching purposes to improve performance. I just want to go back to the pipeline. As you can see here with the pipeline, it's tagged it with high volume ingestion, and all the other items are tagged. I can now browse and say, show me only the bronze item, show me only the low volume, show me only the high volume, show me only the visualization, and it will filter down my list so that I can find things quicker and easier. In the pipeline, you have in your copy task, I just want to get back into it quickly. There are various other options. I've chosen an Azure SQL to import my data. An alternative option, there are, I think Devolt said 140 odd connectors available. If I click more here, you can see there's quite a list of them available, and there are more than this, and some of these expand out to multiple options. So they're included Oracle, Microsoft, Amazon, Google BigQuery's in there, Google Storage. There's plenty storage options and querying options available. You can also call webhooks, APIs, file storage. The list does go on. So once you've created your data structure, I'm going to jump back to another one. Once you've created your data structure and it's in your lakehouse, it creates a SQL endpoint, which you can connect using your SQL Server Management Studio, and a default semantic model, which we advise against using. And so I'm going to go back to my webinar example that I had, where I have a lakehouse with some data in it. So if I go into the gold lakehouse, I can create a semantic model off that for Power BI to consume. So it's as simple as going into the lakehouse. I can go new semantic model. It will pop up and ask me to give it a name. I'm just going to call it Webinar Live. And then you choose the tables you want to have in it. I'm going to choose all of my tables that are in that, and it will then pop up with the relationship diagram for you to create all your relationships. And again, because I don't want to wait for it and go through that process, I'm going to jump back a little bit to a window that's at least one that's going to be able to be used. And I'm going to go back to the webinar where I have created a custom semantic model. And I hope I clicked the custom semantic model and not the report. I think I clicked on the report. So I've created a custom semantic model down here with all the relationships already built in. So if I can go open semantic model, it'll show you the relationships all defined. And this one caused me a problem this morning. I'm hoping it starts up a little bit quicker than it did this morning. And that's where demonstrations go wrong. So once you've got that model, there's two ways of consuming it. This one's created now, but it hasn't got the relationships in. I can create the relationships by dragging the product across to the product ID, and it will then pop up and create a relationship for me, the same as you would have done in your desktop version previously. It works the second time. Okay, so what I had open was my model. I'm going to try one more time to open that custom model. Hopefully it'll work this time, but if it doesn't, from here you can actually build your reports directly in the browser. Power BI exists in the browser. If I go create a blank report, it comes up with the Power BI canvas as you may be familiar with it if you've used Power BI. So I can simply put a table on, and I can do all the things I could do in Power BI desktop. I can add the customer, I can add the quantity of items purchased, the selling price. I didn't get quantity of items, I'll add it now. And I can put the product in exactly as I always did in Power BI desktop. What I can also do is I can connect to that model using Power BI desktop. So I've got Power BI open. If I choose the one-lay catalog as my connection, I've previously signed into Power BI with the credentials I used on the website. So now if I choose that model, the same model we've just connected to, I now have it in Power BI desktop and it works exactly the same. I can add my table. I'll create exactly the same. Now things stop working. I'm going to open another Power BI desktop just in case, because it looks like this one has crashed. Okay, so I choose the one-lay catalog. It will pop up with the model. I've chosen the model again as I did previously, and now I'm going to choose a table exactly as I did before. My data should appear on the left there, and now I can build exactly the same report that I built a few seconds ago with the customer name, the product quantity and price, and I can add the product itself as well. That gives you your exact same experience as you get in the cloud, but from this version you'll need to publish it once you've built it. So I can simply publish it to the same. I just need to save it quickly, give it a name, save it, and then it will publish it to the workspace I've chosen, which is going to be the webinar. Once it is published, I can go back to the workspace. I can browse back to the workspace, which is the webinar one. And if I just refresh my page to make sure that it's there, I have the live demo here, and I can browse that report in the same way you would have always done. If I go back there to the webinar and look at this report, there's another feature where you can click the three dots and you can choose view item lineage, and it will show you the lineage of that report, where it comes from, how it's built, its underlying semantic model, its underlying lakehouse, and it'll even show you if there's shortcuts showing where the data came from originally. So that should conclude everything that we wanted to demonstrate. I hope I haven't gone too fast and that everyone was able to follow and found it useful. And I'll pass back to you, Devolt.
Can everybody see my screen? See my screen, Bruce?
Yeah, we're back on the demo.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, Bruce. So that basically concludes the presentation from Bruce and myself. So I'm now just going to hand over to Sujesh.
Thanks, gentlemen. So yeah, that was really interesting. And I think before we end off, let's take a quick poll. We're going to put that up on screen, and then you can quickly complete that. Should be on your screens now. Awesome. While you're busy completing the poll, I just want to thank Devolt and Bruce. I think it's a lot of food for thought. And I guess I hope we're all walking away with valuable insights on how Microsoft Fabric can help you simplify data management, drive efficiency, and unlock AI-powered analytics. If we go on to the next slide, I want to just share with you that our next webinar will be covering adoption and change management. It's a concept we call digital enablement, and we'll be diving into how we can support and prepare our teams to maximize on your organization's technology investment. So be sure to mark your calendars. We will share the registration link in the chat. I'm not sure if there's any questions that's in the Q&A. I can't see, Pranay, if there are any. But if there are any
No
questions,
questions on the chat, Sue.
fantastic. If there are any, please reach out to any of us and we will put you in touch with Dearbolt and Bruce and we can, oh, here we go. We have Tracida. I think it just got off my screen now. Bruce, do you see it?
Yeah, I can see the question. The question is, how do I, I've just moved it across here. How do I connect to my on-premise database? The answer is Fabric has the concept of a on-premise gateway. You install the gateway software onto a virtual machine sitting on-premise, and then the Fabric will then use the on-premise gateway to connect through to your on-premise artifacts or databases. So there is there is an extra external piece of software that will need to be installed for that to work. Does that answer the question? There is also the possibility to create a VLAN and add Fabric to make it appear as if it is built into your local network, even though it's in the cloud.
Great.
I'm seeing a thumbs up. Oh, it's yours.
Yeah, thanks, Shatito. Prince asked, please talk about version control. I think Git was mentioned and how storage is affected when you have multiple versions.
Can I share my screen again?
Sure.
If I take over sharing, I'm just going to have a look at that. So here I have my workspace with all of my code and versions inside it. One thing I did also miss is if you have something that isn't associated here, and I will get to the version control, is you can actually attach an item to a layer or a phase of this by choosing that little paperclip on the corner, and I can add the live demo as a presentation, a visualization, and it'll tag it as visualization. I think it didn't. I missed oh, it has there. Okay. So when it comes to Git integration, your workspace can be linked to a Git repository in Azure DevOps. If you go to the workspace settings, and then there's Git integration, and you can add a DevOps repository, and you then have branching. You have you can also select which branch you want to see in your workspace. So if multiple people have separate workspaces, they can each attach a branch to a workspace and see only their branch they're working on. And then they can do the usual pull requests and merges and everything that Git supports already, and also keeps your version control. Does that cover Git and version control? Storage,
yep.
Data storage won't be affected by that though, because the data is stored in one lake, and if you're attached to a lake house, you get the version that's in Git, but your underlying data is in one lake and will still be the data that everybody sees the same. Devolt, back to you again, unless you see more questions.
No, I think that was the end. The only last slide left is a thank you slide, which I can show.
I think that brings us to the end of our session. But yeah, as I said earlier, if there's anything you would like to hear from the team about, please reach out to us. And as always, thank you for making the time to join us and your engagement. Yeah, and we'll see you next month. Thanks all. Have a lovely day further.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.